Well, hello, everyone. This is Gene Trowbridge, and this is this week's edition of TLG Talks, Trowbridge Law Group Talks. And we're happy today, very happy today, to have with us Robert Helms, the host of the Real Estate Guys radio show. And more people who are listening to this know Robert than know me. So I'm proud to have Robert on the show. Hello, Robert.
Hey, Gene. So thanks so much for having me. This is awesome.
Well, it really is. It's fun, too. We've known each other and we've danced for many, many years. And I've been to some of your events and they're very, very, very good. I love it. If it's in my schedule to go, I appreciate being invited. That's great. So, Robert, why don't you tell us a little bit, the audience would be interested to know what your business background was and how did you get into this big world of syndication?
Yeah, originally, like many syndicators, I started as a real estate investor. My dad was in real estate. He sold real estate, but primarily was an investor. He was an investor before he became a broker. And I was kind of around it and I gravitated to it. I decided to get my real estate license, and my very first commission check, I bought a duplex and then was on the road to acquiring real estate. And at some point, like many people do, I ran out of money and I ran out of my ability to qualify. I had more loans than they wanted to give me. And I figured out, well, I might be able to bring other people along to do some of these bigger and different deals. And my actual first syndication, I was completely passive. I was making a lot of money selling real estate and owning real estate, and found an opportunity to invest with a group that was doing something completely different than I had any background in. But it sounded intriguing. I put $50,000 in passively. And an amazing thing happened. They paid me more than they said they would in a shorter period of time. And I'm like, this is great stuff. So
you wouldn't want to invest with them again, would you?
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to do that.
Right. No, well, that was the thing, right? And it's one great lesson for syndicators is just do a great job and take good care of people. And so that led to us doing a whole bunch of passive deals. And then ultimately, they came and said, you guys seem to be pointing to us and we raised a lot of capital because of you. What if you became the promoter on the next deal? And I said, well, I don't know anything about that. And my mentor said, well, you kind of do because you've been doing all the work. You just haven't been getting the credit, and I'll ride shotgun and we'll make sure it goes well. So they kind of held our hand for the first few. And then we were off to the races. And today, my favorite thing to do is passively invest in other people's deals.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. I do a lot of business with a particular group out of Houston, and I have guys call me, and I call them homework calls. They call me to do their homework and see what's going on. And a typical conversation goes like, Gene, I passively invested in 27 deals and I want to be a syndicator. And I let the person stop, dead silence. And I say, why? Isn't passive investing working for you? Why would you want to do this? There's a lot more to it than you think, but that's really something. So how did that spill over to the real estate guys?
So independently of my personal investing and real estate development and syndication, we started our radio show on a local radio station in San Francisco 25 years ago. And little by little, we added stations, and then podcasting became a thing. We were one of the first radio shows on real estate to podcast. And now we're heard in over 190 countries, tens of millions of downloads. It's crazy. So the Real Estate Guys is kind of how we find, great people to talk to like yourself. And we discuss things, all things real estate. This last couple of months, we've been talking about property management. We've been talking about, of course, the big changes because of COVID and eviction moratoriums. We've been talking about agriculture. We've been talking about which property niches are doing well in spite of the pandemic and which aren't. So it's pretty wide variety. And the thing we gravitate towards teaching is syndication, because I believe it is the single best opportunity in real estate. Whether you're the active sponsor and you're out doing deals like a lot of your clients are, that's a great business to be in. But also, as we talked about, the passive side, I love that question. Why would you want to do all the work if passively you can invest? I mean, we still actively syndicate and develop, but it takes a lot more work. And a passive investment is a great place to be able to get exposure to a market, to a type of real estate, and not have to learn it all, do it all, and own all the intellectual property and relationships yourself?
Well, I was a syndicator for a long time, and then I stopped that and I went to law school when I was 45. It's hard to retire from being a syndicator. It took me maybe 8 years to wind up everything I had after I'd stopped raising money and stopped putting new deals together. But if I'm a passive investor, I can just retire. All I need to know is where's the mailbox,
Right.
or how do I
Well, and it's one of the distinctions, Gene. There's a lot of attorneys that claim to know a bit about syndication, but few have the experience you have, having actually done it for all those years, which is why when you talk about it, it's more than theory, right? So love that. And I mean, come on, you're the guy that literally wrote the book on real estate syndication.
Yeah, that's, I can do quite a session on mistakes. Some I made myself and some I see other people make. And that's always a well received presentation. So you see any changes in your business over the next 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, we already have. We do a series of live events. The podcast, I don't think changes other than the guests and the topics. So that's going well. We continue to have more and more people listening, which is humbling and cool. But in terms of the events that we do, which, back in the day, 12, 15 years ago, we were doing 60 live educational events a year. Today, we do about a dozen. And like everybody, when COVID hit, we went virtual. That had pros and cons. We had to work to figure out that whole virtual reality world, and it was favorable. There were some great things about it. People could attend our event from countries that were several time zones away. Everyone has a front row seat. We got more people to sign up for events. But the downside is, especially in the world of raising capital, the networking with people it's just harder to do virtually. People make an effort at that, and you can make connections. It's not the same as hanging out in the breaks and over lunch and in the bar at night. And so I think what's going to change for us is just being real strategic about what we're covering. As the world changes, we need to adapt. We can't just keep giving the same seminar we've given for 10 years because the world's changed and the way we go about the business has changed. So I think for us, it's more nuances in our business plan rather than a complete do-over, but we're definitely paying attention.
Well, that's great. So are you going to come out with a live event here this spring?
We are. We've done, twice a year, Gene, we do our Secrets of Successful Syndication event that you've been to many times. And that event has gone virtual the last 2 times. This time, coming up in March, the end of March, we will do the event live in Dallas, Texas. Centrally located, Dallas has been friendly to live events. It's actually our 4th live event. And, it feels different. People are more spread out. People are wearing masks, but still, people are really appreciating getting together. But I think we'll also continue to embrace the virtual technology because of the benefits it has. For content and learning, it's pretty good. It's just not as good for relationship forming, networking, Q&A, those kinds of things.
Every once in a while, I get invited to participate in people's live events, but virtually.
Sure.
So they'll put me on the screen and let me do my pitch, my song and dance, and then that's good. Well, I suppose if I went to the real estate guy's website, I could find out information about that event, right? Coming up in March.
You absolutely could. In fact, if anyone's interested in what we do at the Real Estate Guys, we have a podcast that goes out every week, and a lot of people choose to listen to that. We have a weekly newsletter and all those things. And I think that all people need to do is send an email to TLG@realestateguysradio.com, TLG@realestateguysradio.com. And that way, they can get all of our propaganda and learn what it is that we do. The next event right now as we're live will be March 26th and 27th, but there's always one around the corner. We do it every 6 months.
And is that in the facility where you have the stadium seating?
I wish it was. That hotel is actually closed because of
Oh,
COVID. So we're at another hotel we've worked with since the pandemic, and they've been really, really great. Just about every aspect of the event, you know, the cleaning and just everything. So it's going to be near the airport in Dallas, and it's 2 days, Friday and Saturday typically. We recommend that people don't go home till Sunday because there's some good networking opportunities usually on Saturday night. But it's 2 full days, very immersive. It's designed for anybody who wants to take that next step and become a syndicator, or somebody who wants to learn how to vet a deal and an operator. And a lot of times passive investors come just so they know the questions to ask.
sure, sure. Well, maybe I'll see you there.
That would be awesome. We would love to have you. You are always a wealth of knowledge when it comes to syndication, both from the practical point of view and certainly, maybe more importantly, the legal point of view.
Yeah. This whole series of interviews I'm doing, it's really funny. You said, and I gave you a thumbs up, you said became a syndicator because you didn't have all the money you needed to do all the real estate work you wanted to do yourself. I can't tell you how many people have said the same thing. I've also interviewed purposely some people who are extremely successful in the real estate business who would never be a syndicator. They don't want the people side of the business. I mean, if you're selling real estate or you're building stuff, you have a pattern to your life. When you've got 30 investors in a deal and you're a week late on your distribution, you have a totally different pattern in your life. And some people are not interested in that. And so they buy what they can afford and they only invest on themselves. There's nothing wrong with that. And then I've also interviewed some people from my education, my rookie camps. I've picked a couple people that I think are going to be gangbusters, but they just can't step up to the plate. You know, you just need to motivate them to go out and do the deal. Because your first deal, people are going to invest because of you. People get so hung up on the first deal. And really, the only people you're going to ask for money on the first deal are the people that know you and trust you anyhow. So do it. That's it. So my final question to you, in this whole world of real estate and syndication of real estate, what advice would you give to a true rookie?
That's a great question. You know, it's the hardest time in your real estate career, whether you're an investor or a syndicator or you're investing passively, is, like you say, Gene, the first deal. It's that psychological hump. It's all of that. So my advice to someone brand new is that there's no immediate run to the back of the room rush. Sometimes we go to events and the sponsor has a big pitch like today and today only. You know what? Opportunities are like buses. Another one will come along. However, if you just stand at the bus stop and let the buses go by, you're never going to get involved. So I think a great thing for rookies to do is to just immerse themselves in the topic, to get educated. Certainly read your great book if you're interested in syndication. I know, Gene, you're doing a class for rookies, which I would strongly recommend. One of the places people get intimidated the most is the legal side. As soon as you cross that line between investing in your own account and taking other people's money, a lot happens. And that's why you really need to understand the legal side. You make it very easy for people to do, which is great, but they have to have their mind around that. You don't have to be a tax expert, but you need to know something about tax. You certainly don't have to be an attorney, but you need to have one on your team. And so I think if you're brand new, just open your mind. Right? The mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's opened. Don't try to make up your mind until you've heard kind of both sides of the story. I think there's just a lot to learn. And at the same time, action, you know, our motto at the Real Estate Guys is education for effective action. Without action, nothing happens. So don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. Learn, but then go out, find, help, find a team. When you have someone on your team that's got lots of experience, they can be your backstop. And your first deal is the hardest, and they get easier and easier. But if you're brand new, don't be intimidated. Know that people have come before you with as little or less experience as you have and have done this. And I think that's really the thing. One of our favorite things to do at our 2-day event is what we call proof of concept or evidence of success. And I bring people up on stage that last time or 2 times ago were in the audience, and now they are doing deals. And I love when someone has just finished their first deal, because they beam and they've been through all that trepidation and all those difficult, awkwardness and all that stuff, and they figured it out. They aren't yet perfect at it. None of us are, but every time it drives you forward. So if you're brand new to this, it can be a lonely investing. Real estate, it can be a lonely business. Syndication, not so much, because you are doing it with other people, and find a great community where you have like-minded folks that are willing to share.
Yeah, when I decided to get out of the business of doing new deals, I had just come through the tax season, and I had sent out 1,676 K1s. And so I licked a lot of stamps and licked a lot of envelopes back at that time. And I was faced with the issue of growing. I needed to, I was raising money through the broker-dealer community, and they wanted me to do bigger deals. And I said, okay, bigger deals, more investors, more space, more employees. So I went home and sat at the kitchen table with my wife, where all the great decisions in life are made. And yeah. I said, okay, I got about 15 years of working ahead of me. What am I going to do for the next 15 years if I don't do this? Let's go to law school. 27 years ago.
Wow. 7 years yeah, ago. I think maybe that 15 years has expanded a bit, Gene.
Yeah. And one last thing I'm going to say to the people who are watching us who are passive investors. There's 4 questions I believe a passive investor should ask before they invest. And the first question is, Robert, if I give you my money, what happens if something happens to you?
Yeah.
And you mentioned having a team. All the great syndicators that I work with, there isn't just one person there. There's a team. And I'm concerned about continuity, especially during this period of time. We have had two syndicators in their teams die of COVID. And what happens if that had just been one person? Now the investors are in trouble because they have to do it themselves. If they wanted to do it themselves, they would have. So that's my first question. My second question the passive investor should ask, Robert, is, hey, Robert, have you done this before? And you address that problem. And all of us have had to say no, but I've learned about real estate. I've done this, I've done that. So one of my advice to the syndicators is just get that first deal done. Do a small deal, get it done. So when they say, Gene, have you done this before? You say, hell yes, once.
Oh, yeah.
That'll break it. Then you'll feel comfortable. Like you said, it's not so frightening if you can say yes. Okay. And the third question is skin in the game. You're going to put any money in this thing, Robert? What I've learned over time is, an answer is yes, I'm going to put some money in this, and I'm going to sign the mortgage. That pretty well shuts them up. Okay.
Yeah.
But
it's such an important question, right? It's right. Like you have to ask the waitress at the restaurant, what's good here? And she says, oh, I don't eat the food here.
Yeah.
Like, that's not good. You always want to be in your deal. And certainly you have blood, sweat, and tears in it. But I think that's a world-class question, Gene. Are you putting any of your own skin in this game?
Right.
In our syndications, we are always the biggest investor. We always have money in our deal, and we teach that. Now, if you're just starting out and you don't have money, okay, well, you can overcome that, but just know clients are going to ask.
And you don't want to put all your money in the first deal, because then you'll never do the second deal.
Bingo.
So, so that happens. And then the last question a passive investor should ask is, if something happens to me, Robert, where do I find out how I can get liquidity?
Yeah.
And the answer is, Robert says, well, we have professional people that draft our documents. And if you're up to it, you're going to say in Articles 12 and 13, in the operating agreement, you can read our plan for providing liquidity to you, whether it's voluntary or forceful. And I never once in those 4 questions said cap rate, NOI, cash on cash. Never said that. I have passives who call me and say, will you analyze this deal for me? I said, no, but did you ask these 4 questions? Now go forward yourself and figure it out. And that's, I think that's pretty good. And rookies, I love working with the rookies, and that's terrific. Thank you so much for your time. And I appreciate it. And you've given us good advice. All the people who are going to listen to this will appreciate the time you spent with us, Robert. And
well, thank you, Gene. It's been a pleasure as always.
Maybe I'll see you in March.
We would look forward to that for sure.
Okay. Thanks, Robert.
Thank you, Gene.